everybody. Brian Horvath here. Excited to bring you a special interview with my friend and special guest, Peter Matzenbecker. And really excited about having him here with me because we're going to share with you just the things you need to know about open enrollment. Health insurance can be a big beast if you don't know how to start, how to navigate it, how to train it. We want to help you slay the dragon, train the beast, understand the essentials, the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s about health insurance, about healthcare, the kind of healthcare and health insurance that's going to serve you and your family well so you can have peace of mind and go on knowing, living, and loving the purpose for your life, but also specifically for your career and finances. And so I'm so thankful to have Peter here. He's helped me and my wife, specifically himself as well, just in a conversation we're going to have just like this. And that kind of gave me the idea one day. It's like, you know what? Peter's got some great information, a heart to serve, and he's ready to help me, help you, help us master this health insurance thing. So Peter, so glad to have you here, man. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure, Brian.
Yeah. So really, I really meant it. My wife and I were so blessed to have you help us. I started a business. She left corporate world. Some of the plans and the programs we had weren't really working for us. They were confusing. It seemed like it cost us not only a lot of money, but a lot of time researching things and communicating back and forth with folks. And it was really frustrating. Then you entered the scene as a referral to me. And here we are talking today because I believe what you have to share and the questions I'll ask you will help prompt you to share what really can help and benefit people. So tell us about health insurance. What is it today? How does it stand? What are your thoughts on it? I mean, let's talk about that.
Well, health insurance is a challenge. And of course, it can vary from state to state. Florida, which is, of course, my home state, it's particularly challenging. There are not a lot of options for people that need health insurance. It's terrific for those of us that have had the pleasure of group insurance through an employer. For many years, we never even thought about it, right? It was just reasonably priced and it was everything we needed. And then for many of us, somewhere along the way, we ended up as an independent contractor or a business owner or off on a venture or otherwise maybe unemployed. And all of a sudden, you realize that health insurance is not something you can take for granted, and it isn't easy to navigate the sources and the options of health insurance today. So I do that for my clients. I'm an independent agent, which means that I am not beholden to a particular carrier. I work with all carriers that are available in all the states in which I do business. And that includes the Affordable Care Act, or the ACA, or otherwise known as Obamacare, and private insurance as well. So I really help everyone and anyone who needs that kind of assistance for themselves or their families.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, there's so many, for a lot of people, it could become alphabet soup or this plan, this code. It's like reading tax law or something like that. It can get really confusing. All of a sudden, your eyes start hurting and you fall asleep in your paperwork, right? I mean, you feel like a lot of families struggle with trying to understand the whole thing.
And that is a big part of what I do. If I didn't have the tools at my disposal that I have in front of me when I work with clients, it would be just as difficult for me. Where someone like yourself has to navigate not just the broad resources, but then you have to go in and look at individual carriers with individual plans and features. I have the ability to help people do that. So it's relatively easy for me to do it, partly because I have the tools and partly because I've been doing it for a long time. And that's why I'm here.
That's terrific. And so a little background about you. I mean, your heart to serve in this area is why? I mean, what prompted you or caused you to get into this kind of business?
Well, first of all, I've been in this industry for 30 years, give or take. I'd like to say take, but there might be a couple more years in there. I was not always exclusively focused on the health insurance and Medicare space, but when I went independent, it became my primary focus, and it really became my primary focus because I recognized that it became my primary need. And once I realized how essential that was for me, I knew that I could make a practice and a livelihood just focusing on people who need health insurance or Medicare assistance. So it was me going out on my own and having to navigate the health insurance marketplace that brought me to where I am today.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's what connected me a lot, my wife and I, with you is not just the know-how, but the heart and, of course, the firsthand experience. It's kind of like how I help my clients a lot, and those that are listening to this even now is that, yeah, I've been through some of the journey, and I can't wait to, and then I share it, and then I can't wait as soon as I learn something, share it with others too, because it has a practical application to it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. So, basic question. I mean, define health insurance. I mean, I got a whole
Yeah.
bunch of things I could say about it, but how would you
Right.
define it as basic format?
Yeah. Well, it's somewhat self-defining, right? Health insurance, but what does that mean? And
Hmm.
really, even that the answer to the question, what is health insurance, can vary depending on what kind of health insurance you're looking at. I think the best way to define it might be starting with the Affordable Care Act, which defines minimum essential benefits. And I'm going to tell you right now, I could glance at a list, and I might. There are 10 minimum essential benefits that the Affordable Health Care Plan requires in those health insurance plans. But it's things like essential benefits and emergency care, ambulatory services, which are basically outpatient type services, hospital care, maternity, child care, mental health care, rehabilitation. And this list of 10, which I could look over the list, but I won't. It's anyone could Google it. Are really the things that most of us would expect from our health insurance.
Okay.
We get sick, we have an accident, we get pregnant, whatever. We have an illness. We assume that we are going to be able to go to our healthcare providers and get these services. And that is what one of the things that is great about the Affordable Care Act, and is not necessarily always true outside of the
Hmm.
ACA. So it can be more narrowly defined depending on the kind of health insurance you're looking at, but that gives you a really good idea.
No, that's great. I think a lot about this with insurance. Who wants to pay for insurance, right? I mean, because, you don't think about it or you worry about it or are frustrated. You're only frustrated with it until you need it. And when you have it and it's there, like, oh, I'm glad I insured myself.
Right.
And I think that's, it's something to be considerate of when we just suck it up, Buttercup, invest in
Yeah.
it, right? Now you're going to have to do it. So
Yeah.
that's a little tree off a question I have for you. So is it true that I thought everyone needed health insurance? I mean, what isn't that a little bit of the confusion with the whole ACA or just give
Well,
me a little bit of that background from the
yeah.
past.
Do you mean as in needed, as in required?
Sorry, yeah. So legally speaking, I remember there was a time when that whole, insurance act came out or the ACA Act came out, like you gotta have it, and people were scrambling to get it, and you had a deadline, and there's still some remnants, I think, of that today. A little confusion there. Can you clear that
There,
up for us?
there is confusion, but that was struck down, I believe, by the Supreme Court. Was the ultimate authority who said you cannot make it mandatory. Um, I think we could have a really interesting conversation, maybe on another visit. We're all required to have automobile insurance, right?
Right.
It's against the law to drive your car without it, and the reason that law exists is to make sure that no part of our society is unduly burdened uh, because someone isn't covered, and it spreads the risk, right? If you rarely drive, you might think you don't need health insurance,
Hmm.
so you don't get it. Someone else drives every day, but the idea being that it could make sense for everyone to be required to have it, but the courts decided that it should not be mandatory, and so it isn't mandatory. And unlike not too many years ago, an individual can decide, I'm going to take my chances. I'm not going to get health insurance.
Right. Okay. Good. Thanks for clearing that up because I mean, well, I knew it was the right thing to do just for me and my family, but so sometimes you sweep the rest under the rug. But being what I do and helping folks in all situations,
Yeah.
it helps me understand it better and explain
You,
it better
you,
myself. So,
you might get away with it. A
right.
young person in particular might get away with it for years. But
Sure.
the biggest reason you have health insurance is for a catastrophic health event that
Hmm.
might wipe you out financially. So,
Yeah. And I think
but
that a transfer of risk.
it is not required by law is the important thing.
Okay. So stamp it. Moving on.
Yes.
Okay. So So I walk into your office, or I walk into your virtual office, walk through your virtual front door, or whatever the case may be, and I need health insurance. How do you start somebody on the yellow brick road, if you will, to being covered, to feeling like they have what they need and they're satisfied moving forward?
Well, I don't know that this is necessarily the exact order in which I would gather this information, but here are the well, I can think about you and your wife as an example. I
Yeah.
need to know where you live, right? Because the health insurance that may be available to you might be different for someone else who lives only 50 miles away. So I need to know a little bit about you. I need to know where do you live. I need to know how old you are. I need to know a little bit about your background. Uh, let me be clear. Your health. Um, I don't really need to know a lot about your background. I
Not
just
my
need to know.
favorite baseball team or anything.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Okay.
And yeah, let's not talk about baseball.
Yeah, I
Uh,
got you.
Tampa Bay Rays fan.
Yep.
Um, and then maybe your budget. You know what? Because the ACA can be expensive, um, or maybe not, depending on your income. So many people don't realize that they qualify for tax credits, which can make ACA insurance very, very affordable. The reason I need to know about your health is if you have pre-existing conditions, you have more limited options than someone who does not have pre-existing conditions. So uh, those are some of the things I want to know about. Where you live, your date of birth, your health, and maybe your budget. Um, and then we can look at all of the plan options that potentially work for you.
It's funny when I think about doing that kind of that questionnaire, if you will, for you, whether it was just by having a dialogue or having it on paper. But then we walk into the market. So I think about going to a Sam's Club or a Walmart or a Costco, what have you, whatever, and a big box store and going, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the opportunity there to get what you need, but also opportunity there potentially to be confused. So how would you walk someone through
So,
that
and
box
that
store?
yeah, and that gets to my technology, and I can do it virtually side by side with you. Some people don't need to see it. There are people that just say, "Tell me what the best thing
Hmm.
is for me." They do it. I can also take you with me, and we can walk through that box store together, and we can look at all of the plan options. We can put them side by side. We can agree or disagree about what matters more to you. And of course, we're not really going to disagree. I'll always give you my opinion.
Right.
Uh, and there are some things there are misunderstandings that I do want to clear up for some people about what matters and what doesn't matter. But ultimately, I can put everything in front of a consumer or a client,
Hmm.
for them to make the best decision for themselves and their
Yeah, that's
family.
absolutely. And I think that's terrific because I really feel, again, a shout out to you about how you go about your business. Obviously, you've been in 30 years, give or take, you said earlier, but really, I call it like a Sherpa or a guide, someone that's going to walk side by side and be like a concierge. You're not going to
Yep.
put the things in the basket, but you're going to ask folks to consider. And that's kind of how I see it. It helps me visually think about, oh, looking at this, looking at that, looking at the caloric intake or the content,
And
kind of make another decision.
you do make an excellent point because a lot of this you can do yourself. Um, it would be difficult, but all of the information that I access is available to the general consumer. The challenge would be, and not to get too deep into the weeds, but whether you were looking for a health insurance plan or a Medicare plan, you could Google search all of the providers that are in this marketplace, and you could call every one of them, and you could ask
Hmm.
them about all of their plans. And if you're good at spreadsheets or taking really good copious notes, you might actually arrive at the right solution for your family. But boy, that would be difficult. So an agent, and in particular, I think an independent agent who doesn't have a particular inclination towards one carrier for any reason, good or bad,
Right.
is the easy way to do it.
Very good. I love it. And again, I experienced it myself. So how would you, I love what you said about thinking about the checklist or the almost like a 10-point plan or like the must-haves within the ACA. Is there's a couple that when you have conversations with folks, is there one or two that really always come up? It's going like, okay, there's a no-brainer
Well,
there, or no, you're not going to miss it.
well, first of all, I think the way I would answer that is there are essential benefits that are critical to one client, like are you going to be having children?
Hmm.
Because if you are going to be having children, you don't even want to look outside of the ACA because there are so few plans that cover maternity, childbirth, pediatrics. They literally won't pay for it. So if someone does their own homework and misses out on that, and they're in a plan that's costing them hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month, and it doesn't cover an essential benefit that's critical for their needs,
Yeah.
uh, so I don't think there's one, but your needs will steer me in a particular direction. The questions that I ask you about your health and your family, so to the extent that if you're planning a family, that's not directly a health question, but it will certainly be impacted by the kind of health plan you choose. So it has more to do with the data that I gather from a client points me in the direction of which kind of plans might be viable. If you have excellent health, if you have no background with any kind of pre-existing conditions, you may be perfectly suited for one kind of plan versus someone who says, you know what, I've got diabetes, I was in the
Hmm.
hospital twice last year, I'm having problems with my knees. That completely changes the type of conversation we'll have.
Okay. That leads me to a question down the list a little bit here. Pre-existing conditions. I mean, I remember just in, well, geez, many political campaigns over the years, you heard that was a big thing for coverage, that a pre-existing condition would fall under an insurance, regardless of, like, again, it was existing or pre-existing or comes up later. Later,
Yeah.
can you define pre-existing condition and then share how that plays into today's marketplace?
So pre-existing conditions can be real obvious, like
Hmm.
history of cancer,
Hmm.
uh, uncontrolled high blood pressure, um, and we could go on and on with a stroke, but it could be something like a torn rotator cuff, which is a
Mm-hmm.
crazy, you wouldn't even think about it. But I have actually had, and a lot of times if I don't think of it in a casual conversation, and all of a sudden I think you're as healthy as can be, and you are by all accounts, and we're going through the application process, and one of the questions is, have you been advised to have surgery for any condition that has not yet been performed? And
Hmm.
you go, oh, I have a torn rotator cuff. And the doctor said I really need to have, and of course you're not going to lie on an application,
Right.
because the only way you get past that one is to put a false answer.
Hmm.
So I am a real stickler on anything that could put you in a situation where an insurance company could say, we're not going to cover that. It's a pre-existing condition. And even if you have a legitimate case to make, you don't even want to have to go there. So I won't take chances with that. I will tell you, I will even go a step further. If you used to have uncontrolled high blood pressure, but you've gotten it under control, I'm, and you can honestly say that you do not have uncontrolled high blood pressure anymore because it's being treated effectively with a new medication.
Right.
We want to have a conversation about, could that come back and haunt us later? You have a heart attack or a stroke, and the insurance company goes back and does 10 years worth of research and goes, whoa, 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 you used to have, and then we have to file, can you imagine? So not only are there stringent requirements to meet, I think I take it to the next level because I don't want you to have a bad experience with me.
Sure. So like a contingency upon a contingency plan.
I think that. It's the
And you
safe way.
don't, yeah, you don't make anyone do push-ups, right? If they have a rotator cuff issue, like just to test it.
No.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Right.
Because my ankle kind of hurts and I don't want to have to
Yeah.
run laps. Um,
So many.
so this is one specifically I think about for a lot of people, but even like again, me and Becky, when we had a conversation with you and we ultimately chose one route over the other, and now we want to go back, we want to go choose the other route, but is HMO versus PPO.
Yeah.
And again, if there's any other plans beyond that that someone would consider in conversation with you, if you could explain HMO, PPO, and that other, if there is, and what they are
So
and what the difference is.
yeah, many of us, many of us through employer-based plans have had that option over the years, and many of us have made one or the other for usually. Well, the HMO differs from a PPO in that it usually has a smaller network of doctors, and you cannot see a specialist without a referral from your primary. Okay, so conversely, the PPO has a larger network, and you don't have to call you don't have to go see your primary to get a referral to see an orthopedic. You just call an orthopedic that's in network, and you're good to go.
Right.
So, but the HMOs save you a little money. So the HMO consumer, if you will, or client says, I don't mind. I'm fine with that. My favorite doctor's in network with the HMO. I don't see any specialists. And if I need one, I'll go to my primary and ask them to refer me. The PPO client is willing to pay a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and they want the convenience of a larger network. Um, and they want to be able to go see a specialist if they want to without having to get approval, without a hall pass, if you will.
Yeah.
And by the way, HMO stands for Health Maintenance Organization, and the PPO stands for Preferred Provider Organization. And those are available in group plans. Those are available in
Mm-hmm.
ACA plans. Those are available in Medicare plans. So it's a very common option that people make every day. I did a Medicare enrollment this morning with a client who moved from Colorado to Florida. She had an HMO in Colorado. She was moving to Florida, which requires her to select a new plan. And she decided she wanted a PPO this time. She's had
Okay.
some cancer issues. She needs to be able to see a specialist. She wants more flexibility in choosing that specialist and seeing them when she wants to.
Yeah, gotcha. I think it's to me, I'm willing, and a PPO, I'm willing to pay more to have that availability, kind of like someone that would drive a little bit further to the store to make sure they have that special organic peanut butter. They'll pay a little
Right.
bit more to have what they want option
Yes.
wise. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for explaining that. I remember back in the day being single without kids, without being married, without having kids, obviously, I would just, this one, H comes before P, so I'll choose that one. I didn't
Yeah.
have a clue, and didn't
Yeah.
care. But now a lot of things are different. So, okay, great. So a couple more questions, if you wouldn't mind sticking with me. That'd be great. Tell me about one of the major reasons when I called you or texted you or whatever we did, when we communicated about doing this and the timing of it was open enrollment. And
Yeah.
so for me, can you explain or define, Peter, open enrollment? And then
Yeah.
when does that occur and how does it occur for most of the country, most of the nation, most of the prospective
Okay.
people that will hear this?
So let's start with it applies only to the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. Okay? So it is the annual open enrollment period for Obamacare. Most of us know it as Obamacare. If you do not qualify for a special enrollment period, which is to say, let's say that someone called me up and said, I'm 35 years old. I've never had health insurance. I work for myself. I'm really healthy, but I've had a couple of medical issues. I think I need health insurance. If they are a good candidate for an Obamacare plan, an ACA plan, and it is any other period than the annual open enrollment period, which runs from November 1st to December 15th, most years. I'm going to explain what I mean in a moment.
Okay.
We can't do anything because what would happen is we would go to the marketplace, which is the ACA, and they would say, have you lost creditable coverage, health insurance coverage in the last 60 days? which means you had group insurance through an employer. If your answer is no, you can't enroll. They will tell you, sorry, you have to wait until November 1st to enroll in a plan that won't go into effect until January 1st.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. And that doesn't, it wouldn't matter if it was February. So there are scary situations where people are uninsured when they need it. And a lot of people don't look for insurance until they need it. Now this year is, so what is a special enrollment period? It could be more than just loss of creditable coverage. You could, I believe, I check my notes, definitely getting married, having a baby, moving outside of a coverage area. So you move usually out of a state. You're good. If you just moved to Florida, I can enroll you in a plan anytime. But if you don't qualify for a special enrollment period, and there may be a couple of others that I'm not thinking of, then you have to wait until November 1st. On November 1st, you can look at all the plan options that will be available for January. You can sign up, and on January 1st, you'll have health insurance.
Gotcha.
Now, a couple of clarifying points. The Biden administration opened up a special enrollment period right after he was inaugurated. They passed the American Rescue Plan.
Right.
It was one of the first things they did. And part of that plan opened up a special enrollment period immediately. And that special enrollment period ran until August 15th. So between February and August, if you were worried about COVID, if you had COVID, if for any reason you had gone without insurance, you didn't have to wait until November. So they opened it up for those several months, and it closed on August 15th. So as of August 15th, you have to have a special enrollment period or you wait until November. The other thing they did was they expanded this year's open enrollment to January 15th. So now you have from November 1st till January 15th to get insurance. And you don't need a reason. So it is open enrollment for anyone who for any reason is without insurance and wants to look at the ACA. So in just a few weeks, and I'll add into this that it's a busy time of year because October 15th, which is Friday, is the beginning of Medicare's annual enrollment period, which is a window for Medicare beneficiaries to make changes if they need to. And then 2 weeks later, the ACA open enrollment comes along, and we'll be really busy because a lot of people will be looking for help.
That's the interview now and getting it out to folks now. So that's good. Now I'm incented even further for the Medicare thing. I didn't realize that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I'm January 14th in 2022, at the time of this recording, it's we're in the Q4 of 2021. We get into 2022 and we wait till January. Does that mean that I get retroactive to Jan 1 or it just starts January 16th? When does it actually start?
The first, they did. I hesitate because the normal answer would be if you enrolled on January 14th, your insurance probably would be effective February 1st.
Oh, okay, true.
Now, during this special open enrollment that ran from February till August, plans would begin on the 15th of the month if you enrolled before the 15th. I don't know if they've continued that or gone back to the old way, but as a general rule of thumb, it's the first of the month. If you enroll by the 15th, it's the first of the following month. If you enroll after the 15th, it's the first of the following month. Okay. So that's my default assumption because I haven't seen in writing that they have expanded that effective date.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I remember my situation as well. We got in before the deadline, but waited 2 weeks to kick off on the first of the next month, the new month. Right. Okay, terrific. So what would you say about if there's one big thing in insurance right now, health insurance right now, other than open enrollment, is there something that people should be concerned with? Do they should really consider? Is there like a hot topic or a hot button that you want to?
Two come to mind for me.
Okay.
One is a lot of us um, go day to day believing that we're going to be healthy for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us are realistic, and we know that that probably is a bit of a stretch. But living through COVID, we should all, and many of us have real, personal, sad, stories and experiences. But what I think we've all learned is that, just because you're 25
Mm-hmm.
or 30 or 35 doesn't mean that you couldn't end up in the hospital very sick for a long period of time with huge hospital bills. So one of the things I would remind everyone is um, think about the exposure that you have if you have no health insurance, if something catastrophic happens to you or someone in your family. And then the other thing I want you to know, which ties right into it, is the Affordable Care Act provides tax credits for people of certain incomes that can make health insurance really affordable and sometimes even free. In fact, I helped someone yesterday um, who is going to choose between two plans: a good plan that costs nothing because her tax credit that she qualifies for covers the entire cost, or a fantastic plan that would cost her $350 per month, which might be a lot. And so she might go with the good plan because she hopes her situation is short term. But she has a sick child who's got an undetermined loss of vision
Mm.
situation, which is really, they don't know yet. They don't know whether it's in the brain or congenital. But can imagine being a young mother going through that with a toddler, and you don't know what's coming. Is a surgery coming?
Right.
And so she just needs to make a decision between a high deductible plan that's free, or a low deductible plan that would cost her, a few $1,000s over the next 12 months if she needs it for that long. So to summarize, don't don't assume that you're, invincible, because you don't want to face a catastrophic risk, health risk, and don't assume that health insurance is expensive, because it might not be.
Oh my gosh, you just nailed it, my friend, on that one, because I think for so long, and it's what I coach when I teach people or coach people with regard to their finances, is just changing the mindset. So being diligent, right? So I think of a Bible verse that says the diligent will prosper. Well, I think that's for any of us when we're just get our facts, organize them the best we can, have those candid and crucial conversations with our significant others, or ourselves if we're single, just like really look at our the way we budget our money or plan our money or not. That this is, it's not expensive. It's more expensive than not have anything, and definitely more expensive than not even consider anything than you can ever imagine. So good word on that. I'm glad you brought that up. Again, not fun stuff, but important stuff to do life and do life well and to free yourself up from stress, which of course can be another reason to have health insurance if that gets you right. Um, so as we wrap up, man, I really again appreciate you being with me here today, helping people out. I mean, having your heart to serve really says a lot about who you are, and I hope people will connect with you. So with all that to be said, how can people, Peter, connect with you? Where's the best way they can find you, and how do they communicate with you to take next steps?
Well, if they see my name on the screen, I am with Health Markets. And I will add that Health Markets is a nationwide agency. We're independent. We work with over 200 carriers. I don't necessarily work with 200 carriers because I live in Florida.
All right.
Florida does not have 200 carriers to choose from, but I do work outside of Florida as well. But I don't believe my information is readily available there, but I am with Health Markets. I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida. My email address is pmatzenbecker@healthmarkets.com,
What's the phone number?
727-415-3060. And I'm glad to answer anyone's questions. If someone uh, has follow-up questions, they can call anytime.
One thing did come into my mind. So there's a lot of folks that do what you do out there. What separates you from other folks, other services they can choose from?
Great question. Um, and I'm going to tell you the most important thing is work with an independent agent. And it isn't that there aren't terrific um, carrier specific agents. The thing that you want to make sure you're doing is getting good independent advice. Um, Aetna is a great company. Aetna has great plans. But if you call an Aetna agent, they're only going to show you their Aetna plans. Same with United Healthcare and Humana and WellCare and Cigna and on and on and on. Um, that gets back to, do you want to do all that work yourself? And if you do, call every one of them and interview them all and see who has the best plans for you. An
Hmm.
independent agent is the one that will look at all of them with you and pick the one that works best for you. So I would say that because I'm not the only good agent out there, work with a good independent agent that you know is going to give you good advice, and that's how you're going to get the best service possible.
Well said. Appreciate that, and appreciate you, my friend Peter. Thanks so much for being with me today. And hey, open enrollment's here. Woohoo! Let the fun begin.
Yeah,
And
you
make sure
got
you
it.
guys get that taken care of today.
Thank you. Thank you again.
You got it. Well, there you have it, guys. I think that was a great, great conversation I had with my friend Peter Matzenbecker, and I really encourage you to start somewhere. Start checking on health insurance today, and start with Peter. I mean, you heard from the interview, he has a heart to serve. He's excited about walking with you, walking through the big box store, if you will, to find that right big case of jelly for your jelly needs. Now, seriously, for your healthcare needs, it's an important subject. It can really change your life if you don't take care of it the right way. Would help you take care of it the right way, and you want to do that with someone with a big heart, find an agent like that. And I, of course, obviously I've interviewed him. I recommend Peter. So you can email me as well, as you got Peter's email and phone number, but you can email me as well if you need something, and I'd love to connect you. It's Brian at brianhorvath.com. Until then, I hope you know, live, and love the purpose for your career in finances. We'll see you soon.